It would really help if I added myself to the stream. Wouldn't that be smart? I know that's what you're all thinking. He's too smart to be that dumb, but he was that dumb. Here we go. What did Mickey used to say? Everybody, at the end of the show, they used to talk about washing their hands and stuff. And he'd say, everybody's neat and clean or something. I can't remember how that went now. Well, good morning, Brenda Pruitt and Miss Carkey Carol. Yeah, finally. Had a little technical glitch this morning. I forgot to put myself on screen. It's not just everybody that can screw up that easily. Brenda, remind me to back off on my coffee just a tiny bit. I think I can probably use just a little bit less with that filter. It's okay, but I could probably probably stretch it just a little bit longer if I backed off a few beans and still be fine. Carol, if you are listening, I'm trying out some new filters. I'm trying to go with something I can reuse, and so I'm using a hemp and cotton blend thing, or cotton made from hemp or something, and it works pretty good. But it seems to drain a little faster than a paper filter, but it also seems to be cleaner. No spill grounds, no leaky grounds so far. So I'm really liking them. I think I bought 3 on from Amazon from somebody. And if it's just Brenda listening, she already knows all this. Are you sewing, Brenda, or just joining us today, or me? No, it's actually us because Carol's here. She may not be typing right now, but she's here. I washed it this morning, and another thing about that, it was very dry. It dries out much quicker. The grounds dry out much quicker if you leave them in that filter for a little while and then dump them in the bucket than I ever remember them being in the old paper filters. It used to take, if you left them in there to put them in compost or something, it took a day or two. But that one just fell right out, and then I rinsed it under hot water. I turned it inside out and rinsed it, and actually came pretty clean. But I didn't put any soap or anything in it this time. And so I didn't clean it real good, probably by your standards, but I did clean it, and it was fine. I probably should have cleaned it last night if I wanted to do soap and all that. I didn't want to take a chance on there being soap residual in there. I'll show this, even though there's not hardly anybody here right now. This is my newest coffee mug. I don't know if I've shown this one or not, but it's got all the signs of the zodiac around here. Good newspaper, Bear? I'm not good newspaper, just good news. Well, I was going to tell that in a few minutes when more people showed up, but you know why. So when a couple more people are here, I will talk about that. Gardening. What did I just say about gardening? I thought was interesting. Hey, Dean. So good to see you, buddy. Tell me the truth. Are you dressed up like Darth or Gandalf? You can tell us. And I promise it will never pass these lips. Hey, John. Will you be safe if you're driving? Good to see you this morning, though. And Dean, when you get a moment, give us an update on your father. Dean Dolph. Okay, my bad. I guess that would be Dean Dolph. Okay, Brenda. Well, I didn't put any soap in it. I just scrubbed it out with hot water. I mean, mostly rinse, but it seemed to come. It actually came cleaner than I thought it would. And by that I mean, so far it's not too heavily stained. So it's kind of like a good iron skillet, good iron skillet. That's not what we called them, was it? I guess it is. Don't ever put soap in it. Okay, Dean, I guess that's good news, or at least it's not worse news or bad news. I hate that he's still in ICU. Are you guys able to go in and visit at all, or is it still COVID rules and you can't go in? I know a lot of people have been in the hospital and not been able to do anything about it. One of my friends has had his daughter-in-law had a baby here a while back, and she actually did have COVID or was testing positive, and because of that, they couldn't go in the hospital her mom couldn't go in and be with the baby, which was they were a little upset about that, but. Dean, not to get too personal or anything, can he communicate with you guys, or is he? I was thinking you said he was conscious, but I don't know if he is. And Dean, I'm not sure the world's ready to see Princess Dean again. Although maybe it is. Well, there's not too many people here, but I'm going to go ahead and tell my news. Well, I'm a good news bear today. Went to the doctor yesterday. He was designated non-infectious. That's good, Dean. Well, I'll go ahead and ask another question. Then, I mean, do they think it's what he's got has anything to do with COVID? I mean, is it COVID related, or is it just something out of the blue? Again, another friend had one of her sons had son-in-law had something happen to him the other day, and he was I guess he just at work, or maybe he just got home anyway. He just fell out, passed out. They didn't know what was wrong with him. They rushed him to the hospital, and they've had him in there now for I guess about a week, and he's come around. It was like he was in a coma, and then suddenly woke up and he was up and around and kind of his old self, but they haven't released him yet because they aren't sure what happened. They're trying to figure out if he had a stroke and the blood clot passed or if it's something entirely. Okay, Dean. Well, hang in there, buddy. We're all thinking about you. I hope he can pull through. Hey, Dave Cantrell. Good to see you, buddy. So anyway, I'll go back to my story. And this is by no means to related or reflective of Dean's situation with his dad. But anyway, a couple of weeks ago or 3 now, I had to go in for a test, and I'll be honest with you, it has had me a little concerned. This is yet another reason why I hadn't been around so much, I guess. And I had a bone marrow biopsy done from my hip. They were looking for any indicators or signs that I might have some kind of bone cancer, or not bone cancer necessarily, but blood cancer or bloodborne, that kind of thing. Something with anything relating to cancer. And we were trying to rule it out. I have a protein marker that keeps showing up in my blood that sometimes can indicate beginnings of cancer or cancer at some level, but not always. And in fact, my doctor says she sees it fairly often in men my age. I almost hate that term, men of your age. They didn't used to tell me that. When you're 20 and 30, nobody says, yeah, men of your age. But once you get up older, that's like how they phrase everything. Men of your age should expect this sort of reaction. Anyway, I've been waiting for results, and yesterday I got them, and they were good news. No cancer, nothing showing up. Looks like I'm good to go. So that was actually a huge relief. It was, I went into it thinking I was fine. There wouldn't be a problem. But, and again, in the back of my head, I was saying, well, you're just getting ready in case you get bad news. And that's true. I was trying to prepare myself for bad news, but it turned out to be okay. I'd been a bit, I guess another thing that might have gone along with that was I'd been a bit anemic early on, but that was after my back surgery, right after my back surgery. And I don't know, I'd spent a year on the bed practically, and just lots of things. And so I guess I wasn't too surprised. It doesn't, does it, Dean? And, but anyway, so that could have been another reason, but I guess I'll be monitoring this protein for the next couple of years, or maybe the rest of my life, and just making sure it doesn't suddenly take off and skyrocket. And but it looks like it. I have to go back and have it tested for maybe once every 6 months. So that was the good news part of it. So that was great, and that was that's pretty much all it was. So that's why Brenda. That is why I'm good news, or newspaper bear, as you said. Thank you, Dean. I appreciate it. I was glad too. Like I said, I've tried not to make a big deal about it. I haven't talked about it much. I did finally say why I was out because I had that test, but I didn't expound upon it too much. I kind of figure there's a lot of people in here that are around that have a lot worse than I do. I wasn't going to burden people with my worry about a test. Yeah, how else, Dean? How else do you think that could be said instead of men of your age, or men of a certain age, or damn, you're old? There's got to be a better way to say that. Surely there is. For those of you who've been in a few chats lately, you'll notice I'm riding solo again today. I don't know if my buddy Mark will come in. He may come in, or Uncas, he may show up and chat here in a little bit. he thought he might be getting a load of hay in this morning or sometime today, and he may be taking care of that, or he could be doing something else. But he may pop in, he may not. So actually, I have space on the screen if anybody wants to come in and chat for a few minutes or a little while. If you read my thumbnail, this is kind of a chasing squirrels day. I wanted to talk a little bit about news. Yeah, Dean, that's kind of loaded. Men like you, because my next thought would be, well, men like what? What kind of man? Just what kind of man do you think I am? And they might be right, but I have to check on that because I'm the inquisitive kind. I want to know. Can you smell my beard this morning? I got fairly fresh beard butter. I'm using beard butter now to see if I can soften and improve my beard, which it's starting to look kind of shaggy, but I'm going to let it get real shaggy, and then try to get Brenda or someone to give me a nice cut or a better trim. Maybe show me how to do it better. I hated that it didn't get to looking quite so. Well, I'm not sure what that word is either, Dean. Until it was all gray. And now I'm looking at it here in the camera, and I can't believe how gray it really is. I need a Gandalf outfit. You be Dean Dolph Dean, and I'll be Tim Dolph. And I can definitely be Tim Dolph the Gray. When Mark and I got back together, first time I'd seen him in several years, he popped up on the screen or on my phone. And there he was with a big old long gray beard too. And I thought, this is not the young man I used to run around with. Hello, Nicole. Welcome to Saturday Morning Shine. Hey, thanks for the thumbs up. Anybody else that feels like hitting the thumbs up, I greatly appreciate. And if you're not a subscriber, I would appreciate that too. I'm inching my way up to 100 subscribers. And that if I hit that, I'll probably be amazed. I'm sitting at 92 at the moment. So I need 8 more. I don't know if I'll ever get 8 more or not. I might be asking too much. Dean Dolph and Tim Dolph. Quite the pair, I think. D and T for short. Nicole, what part of the country are you from? As in state or area? I got me one of them in today. That's okay, Dean. You took care of it. That's all that matters. Oh, I hadn't even hit it myself. I guess I should lock myself. Brenda, I hope you've hit the lock button. You'd be the one that I can think of that might not have. Michigan. Oh, wow. We got a lot of Michiganders on here or in here from time to time. Dave Cantrell, he's a former Michigander. He's a removed Michigander. He's now from Florida. I guess that's the second home of Michiganders. And Carol Tarkey, she is in Michigan. Dean, you're slipping, buddy. Dave beat you, and he might be a man of a certain age. I'm not sure. Dave, I'm not saying you're an old man. I'm just saying that, the doctor might say, men of your age. That's what they told me the other day, men of your age. And I'm thinking, men of what age? I mean, why is that important? I think, Nicole, I think Carol's from down near Ann Arbor, maybe. Dave, what part of Michigan were you from? Dean was bit. Dean. I have too, John. Actually, I spent 2 or 3 days in Michigan, totally unplanned. Transmission went out on the truck just as we were starting to cross over the Mackinac Bridge, and luckily we were able to hit the very last exit before we got up on it. I cannot imagine what that would have been cost us to get towed off the bridge. Well, we've got Lynn from the Lynn Project. She's a former Michigan or a Michigoose. Dave, so you would properly be a Michigander, which is a male, gander being a male reference to geese. And Carol and Lynn and those folks, I believe, would be Michigeese or Michigoose, because they're the female of the species. It's the old saying, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Okay, Dean. We'll do laundry with you. You pre-soak your stains or just put them in there untreated? Hot water or cold? I did some laundry the other day. I did some. My wife was about ready. I put a blanket in we had an old blanket in the closet down here. And it was just feeling kind of, damp or not bad, but just, it needed to be cleaned. So I put it in the wash machine on gentle cycle, I believe by itself, and that thing absolutely, totally, and it looked new, absolutely disintegrated in the washing machine. I mean, I've never seen anything come apart like that in my life. And of course, it was a mess to get out of the washing machine. Okay, John, see you then. Be safe out there, buddy. Well, Nicole, that's a long time for Florida. Is that a business trip or just a long vacation? I lived for a couple years in Daytona Beach, or a suburb there of Holly Hill. And then I spent time in the north of Jacksonville and south of Daytona Beach, Cocoa Beach area, doing a science project or project for the university, which was interesting. It was perfect. It was a perfect scenario for a study. I've got these little spoiled. I won't bore you guys with that, unless you'd like to hear a little reptilian talk. And then I'd be happy to. And then again, there's not too many of you here, so maybe I can just do it anyway. Anybody want to hear about lizards? Speaking of lizards, Dave, you guys have some interesting amphibians up around your way you've probably never seen, but they're big. I can't remember what they're called down there. We have a big one up here called some people call a mud puppy or it's a hellbender was kind of the official name for it. They're a large salamander. I mean, they get huge. for salamanders. And there's something very similar in Florida. It's maybe even bigger. And I know some of the creeks in the north central part of Florida, like in the Osceola Forest, they can be found. My reptile professor wanted to go up there and do a little hunting. Yeah, oh yeah, you guys do have geckos. That's another invasive species from the pet trade that got loose. Geckos are not native to Florida. We were at Disney World one time, and I walked in the campground, and I walked over to the shower house, and I had a flashlight, and those things, I'm not sure what species they were, but they were all over the back of the cinder block wall of the restroom. And I'm thinking they were probably there because it was probably warmer than the ground or the air, in the trees, because it was a cool Florida night. It would have been around Christmas time or Thanksgiving. And so they were just all over that wall. I could not believe it. I started to go try to catch a couple of them. They can be bodies. They can chomp down on your finger, but I just couldn't believe. And I guess they're everywhere down there. That's another thing. Like I said, they've been released by people or escaped from people via the pet trade, and now they're just all over Florida. Or as best I know, they're all over the state. I'm sure they are. Let me see what they say here. See what the old Wikipedia says. Are the geckos? See, what I was down there studying were, well, there is a reef gecko that is native to Florida, but it's a little bitty guy, and it's only a couple inches long at best, and probably just down in the Keys would be my guess. Yeah, that's what it says. I was hoping it'd give me there's Indo-Pacific geckos, Mediterranean geckos. That may be the two most common ones down there. I was down there working with anoles, which are the little green and brown lizards you see running all over the place. Lizards. Talk about them. All right, thank you. The little green ones are Anolis carolinensis. And I may not be saying that the way everybody says it, but that's how I say it. Or maybe it's Carolinaeus. But anyway, that's the native gecko species. We actually have some just south of here, a pocket of them up here along the Tennessee River. It's really weird. And they've expanded a little bit over the years. But anyway, that's the native species, and they're green and can turn brown. We called them chameleons when I was a kid because they change colors, but they're really not a chameleon. But they do change from brown to green. But the other species you see a lot down there are brown gecko, really brown geckos, or Cuban. They're actually a Cuban import also. Hey, Carol, swimming done, shopping done, driving home. Cool. Be safe driving. And so we were studying how that species affects the native species, and the brown ones are much more aggressive. They're bigger. The males get bigger than the green geckos, and these guys don't ever turn green. They just kind of go from a splotchy brown pattern to a darker brown pattern. And we trapped and caught and numbered and kept up with them for, they had a project down there several summers. Of course, it's right in the hottest time of, hotter than Hades down there at that time of year, but especially on those islands. But that was a neat thing to do, and it was a perfect setup for a study because you had separate islands separated by maybe miles of water down through the intercontinental water, or the intercoastal waterway. And so each island was kind of like a little separate ecosystem. So what you had on one island did not necessarily mirror what you had on the next island. I think in the end, I didn't get to read the final report, but I know when we were there, it was, you'd find maybe all green still on one island, and on the next island might be all browns. And or what we call segrii, which was they were Enola segrii. The native ones were carolinensis or carolinensis, and where they were mixed, it was somewhat even. And the whole, we were trying to figure out if one, like I said, the browns they're bigger and they're more aggressive, so we weren't sure if they were out competing the natives. They seemed to be doing pretty good when they were down there. At the time, but I don't know where that ended up. But it was interesting. It was a perfect study because you had those different groups and you could separate them. And if you ever done anything, a scientific project or an experiment, that's important to have those groups. I started to say control group. That wouldn't be proper. That wouldn't be correct. I think the control in that case was just the areas on that land, because that's what they were studying, was the overall impact of the segrii on the native population on mainland Florida. But these islands were the perfect sites to study them from. They were also the favorite feeding place of certain small non-poisonous snakes that like to eat things like little lizards, rat snakes and king snakes and that sort of thing. Who knows? Maybe they're keeping the segrii population down. They might like to eat the bigger ones. More meat for the bite. So has anybody else got a squirrel they'd like to chase this morning? I'm open to suggestions. I have a question. Good morning, Dawn. And the volunteer state welcomes your salutations from Teha. Brenda and I actually watched an interesting show the other night about lost Spanish gold mines or silver mines all over Texas. And I knew the Spaniards moved into Texas some. I didn't know how much they did in Texas, which it sounds dumb, but I just thought that later Mexicans came up after the Spaniards had kind of left. Well, not left, but not during the early exploration days, but they were all over Texas, I guess. And they had mines down there that they unfortunately impressed the native population to help them dig and remove from the ground, which was not a good thing. That's one of the little known facts about early Spanish, at least, exploration. But they were hungry for gold and silver to take back to Spain. And you quit laundry? Why, Dean? With that sigh, it sounds serious. I was starting to talk about treasure hunts. And Dawn came on. Well, I wasn't. And then Dawn came on and reminded me of a show I saw the other night about people looking for mines in Texas, lost Spanish mines. Because at some point, the Spaniards would wear out their welcome, so to speak, which is pretty common. Hey, Kay, good to see you. I was just thinking about you. I think there was something came up. I don't know if it was Carolina related or what. And I thought I should tell Kay that. Now I can't remember what it was. But good to see you. Anyway, the Spaniards would hear rumors, and then they would go up and find these mines that the I guess the Aztecs and the Mayans had used, maybe. Or, they had lots of that sort of gold and silver shiny stuff. And the Spaniards wanted it all. And so they would actually lead expeditions up into Mexico. And apparently they found several mines up there. And there's written records of them, digging it, packing it, and shipping it back to Spain. Lots of it. And I didn't realize they got that much out of Texas. But apparently they did. And so what would happen was they would go up and basically conquer the local peoples, turn them into slaves, and put them in the mine to mine the gold or silver for them. At some point in time, though, the natives got fed up with that, and they would attack the Spaniards. And if they were strong enough to do that, they would run the Spaniards out. And what the Spaniards tended to do was, if they were going to lose, knew they were going to be forced out, they would hide the mines. They would cover them up or fill them with dirt. They never mentioned using black powder or blasting powder, so I don't know if they did or not. Surely they did. But anyway, the reason they can't be found today is because the Spaniards hid them. They covered them up with rocks and dirt and just filled the entrances in. And so now people are out there looking for them, and one of the reasons they can't find them is because they're hidden. Let's see what Don said here. Yes. Yeah, that's right, Don. That's what they were interested in. They conquered the lands too, but I think if the lands hadn't had promise for riches, I don't think they would have bothered, because that's what they were really after. But anyway, it's fascinating to me that those mines are actually, now, you hear stories all the time, and there's always these stories of hidden treasure and pirates' treasure and ship's treasure that sank, and the lost city of Cibola, or the city of gold and that kind of stuff. But it's a different thing when you actually find written documents from the Spaniards of that day, where they have written in their journals or their ledgers how much gold they dug, how much they crated up, and how much they sent back to the ships, and then how much the ships carried back to Spain. They kept pretty intensive records of that stuff. So, nowadays, that's why when they look at these Spanish galleons that are lost off, Florida, they usually know what they're looking for, because if they find the logs or records of those wrecks, they usually have pretty close to the value of how much they were carrying. And sometimes it was millions, and nowadays billions of dollars worth of stuff. It's fascinating. For one thing, it fascinates me that there was really that much, that they were actually taking that much back to Europe. And I'm going to say this, don't take it the wrong way, but a lot of it went to the church. And then I guess a lot of the rest of it went to the kings and queens, so they could, buy silky clothes and eat better than all their subjects and whatnot. But it's quite amazing. It really is a fascinating story, the whole concept of the gold exploration and how much they really did find, and people are looking for legitimate mines and things that are out there that nobody's ever found, or not many of them have. I think a few of them have been found, and most of the time they were still producing gold, but the Spaniards left usually because they were forced out and with the intention of coming back. And then I don't think many of them did. Some of them probably did, but most of them, by the time it got, things happened a lot slower back then, and people didn't live as long. So, when Hernando de Soto covered up his gold mine planning to come back to it, he probably didn't make it back before it was, maybe forgotten, or not de Soto. I just used that name, but And Dawn and Kay, I had told everybody a while ago that I got good news yesterday. My bone marrow biopsies came back and I was good. No problem. So that was good. Yeah, that's a good one, Kay. Yes, they were. Yes, they were. I just didn't realize how much. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's just amazing. And people get gold fever. They just go nuts. And I mean, the California gold rush honestly was probably mostly over by the time most of the people got from one side of this country to that side. Gold rush in Alaska and the Yukon of Canada. I mean, they always draw people in. I mean, a lot of places were probably settled and developed because of gold, or at least the promise of gold, or the dream of gold. Ah, Dean, that's sweet. Have you gone to an assayer and had yourself valued lately, Dean? Just curious. Thank you, Kay. Yes, it was good news for me. I guess you're talking about my news. I was a little bit concerned about it and trying not to worry about it. I haven't talked about it much, but it was bothersome. Not to mention the fact that it kind of hurt. Bone marrow biopsies are pretty serious stuff. They got to get in there and poke holes in bones and or drill holes in bones. In my case, I think they just used a chisel. I'm serious. There's a couple different ways to do it, and one is they actually drill a hole through your bone. But in this case, they didn't have their drill wasn't functioning or something, and they said due to supply issues, they didn't have parts that something they needed, and so they were going to be using, I guess, maybe their old-fashioned method, and it's some kind of a needle. I looked it up online, and it's sort of a chisel-looking needle that they can get in there and actually go through bone with. Well, there you go. Brenda's got the numbers. Yeah, there is, Don. That's what I was saying a minute ago. Most of them kept really good records, and although you're right, there are some that they suspect to this day that weren't completely accurate, and may have had some extra that they hid along the way and didn't take home. Which would, I mean, that wouldn't surprise me. I mean, when you're taking boatloads, literally tons and tons of gold and silver back to home, it would be the temptation to keep a little bit would probably be way greater than I could ever imagine. I mean, what are they going to know? They didn't see it dug up. They didn't have to go dig it. They weren't down there. They would not know. If you bring them 20 tons, what's a few 100 pounds amongst friends? I would have kept some. I'm quite sure they didn't get paid that much to make the trips. Usually the trips are financed, but they never really talk about, how much the explorers got. And people like DeSoto were soldiers. So I don't know, what their claim to treasure was, if they had to just were expected just to give everything back over to the state since the king and queen were, rulers of everything at that time. Yes, he is, Don. Even when he dresses up like Princess Dean Leia. How can we say that? Deanla? Leia? No. That doesn't roll off the tongue at all. Help me with that, Dean. You did good with the Gandine. Golf Dean. What was it? Golf Dean. Oh, I can't remember now. It was earlier in the chat. I'm trying to back up and find it. And by now you probably put it in the chat because you heard me ask. And I'm up here looking. Dingolf, yes. Dingolf and Tim Dolph, which I think would make an excellent book. Yeah, I'm sure they were, Kay. That's the thing. That's and like Don was saying, like I said earlier, they kept really detailed manifests of this stuff that somehow managed to get back to Spain and other places. And so what was on there was expected. But when you take a shipload of that stuff back, and we're talking galleons loaded with tons, and I mean that's what boggles my mind. Tons of gold and silver and whatever else jewels and gems they found. I mean, who's going to miss a few if you buried it on the side or took it to a different bank or whatever? I mean, there was so much coming over here, and that's, I mean, there's a whole story about a group of ships that were sailing back from the New World to Spain and sank off the coast of Florida. Got caught in a hurricane, and I think it's part of the group of ships that things like the Atocha, which Mel Fisher found down there years ago. It just was full of treasure, and a bunch of other ones. And it's not like one ship had treasure; they all had treasure, and that's what I mean. When you start adding all that up, it is just, to me, it's unfathomable how much they took, how much they had. Hey, Shelly, good to see you. You be careful, I'll have you back in here talking bird watching and pictures. In fact, I'm sure people enjoyed that a whole lot more than looking at my face. We were just talking about lost Spanish gold a little bit. And Dean, did I ask you something else, didn't I? Oh, I know, Kay. Brenda watches that all the time, and I've watched quite a few of them, and it's it is utterly amazing what they are able to do now with technology, and it really, what they're doing to drain the ocean is really. Oh, you're taking bird pictures right now. 5 degrees. Well, good for you. Well, at least you don't have to worry about the emulsion on your film freezing. What is that little emoji? Chloe has decided to take a nap in my lap, so I guess I'll be here for a little while. Oh, you're so sad, I know. Anybody else have a cat or have a family member that uses a cat as an excuse not to get off the couch every morning? I hear that all the time. Well, Chloe's taking a nap. I can't get up. Well, I thought there was something else, but now I don't remember. Maybe it was just the Dean Dolph thing, but I thought there was another question. Oh, yeah, I was going to say help me with something else, but now I don't remember what that was. Might have been hunting gold or something. Oh, cedar waxwings are in. Are they eating the fruit off that tree? Hey, Leanne Sherbick. My God, look at that. The sun really has shone today. I'll have to get out and check. Yeah, it just popped out from behind the fog. Good to see you, ma'am. Long time no see. At least not this early. Okay, I'm not. I shut up. I know better. Okay, back to your comment. That is an amazing show. We've watched that. Brenda watches it a lot. I probably haven't seen as many as she has, but I find it fascinating in the detail they can get from those, from LiDAR and new sonars and all the um, mapping softwares and things they can get is just great. Brenda, I think she's saying that you might need to cut off your lap and get up so the cat can sleep and you'll be doing something else. Or maybe just your blanket. Which drain in the oceans are you talking about in particular? It is very cool. And it's even cooler when you find they can even probably kind of scary too, but there are satellites up there that can map down some of that stuff in the oceans now too, and I I don't know to what depths, but that just is amazing. Like I said, the detail they can get on some of those sunken vessels and things down there is phenomenal. And then just make the water go away, and you can stand there and look at it, and it's pretty cool. Yeah, okay, and it's a shame that it's natural. It is what it is, but I sometimes feel like it's really a shame that those ships, like the Titanic, are just slowly going away. Another 100 years, and I don't know how much of the Titanic would be left. It's been 110 years now. I think this year, I believe in April, and when you see pictures from it 10, 15 years ago when they were down there, I don't know what the most recent studies are, but it's rusting pretty quickly. And a lot of these wooden ships have been down there for centuries already, and in some ways they're still there. If they find them buried under the sand, of course they're not as in deep water. Titanic went down in really deep water. That probably makes some difference. The kind of critters that live down there attack different metals and things. But yeah, I'm amazed sometimes the stuff they dig up, especially if it's something went down in fresh water, like the Great Lakes. Oh wow, they have found some boats and ships under the mud in the Great Lakes that look almost like they did the day they sank. And that's phenomenal because they're under there and they get locked in. There's no oxygen, nothing really living that eats wood. No anaerobic, which is something that can live, without air or makes its own oxygen or whatever. Evidently they don't all eat wood, and they find ships down there. I remember a few years ago, I think it was in Lake Erie, they found a small squadron of boats that were part of the War of 1812, I think, and they were all intact except for whatever damage they had, but they were mostly intact. Ha ha ha, Dean. Yeah, I bet there are, Shelley. For example, and this blew me away until I saw one. I never realized just how big the Great Lakes were when the Gordon Lightfoot's Edmund Fitzgerald song came out, and then you heard the story of the Edmund Fitzgerald. I always thought, well, how can they lose a ship in a lake? Until you learn just how big and deep those lakes were, excuse me. And I don't know, did they ever find the Edmund Fitzgerald? I think they did. I don't know if they've gone down to look at it, but But that's just the beginning. I went to, there's a, Shelley, isn't there a museum in Mackinac about the shipping or boats on the Great Lakes up there? I've been to one somewhere, and that's the only place I can think of. Yeah, well, you have shipwreck museums there. Probably right. Is Whitefish Point near where you are? No, it's you're on the other side, right? Whitefish Point is over. Is it? It's on the Michigan or Superior side. You're on Michigan. I don't know. I get confused. I should know my geography better than that. I feel embarrassed now. It's Lake Michigan and then Superior. I know that without looking, but I'm going to pull up a map anyway. Okay, I'm back. Upper Peninsula, eastern tip. No, they're not small. They are huge. In fact, I paddled a canoe on the Huron a little bit. And like Mark said one day, I think it was in here, we talked about that. He said we paddled around until the first big giant ship came up, and we decided we didn't need to be out in that water in a canoe. It wasn't dangerous. We weren't that close, but we were surprised. So, Shelley, which lake did the Edmund Fitzgerald actually sink in? UP's on. Yeah, the upper half of the UP is on Superior, right? I knew that part. I thought you were telling me something else. There for a minute you had me lost, Shelley. The lower part of the UP is in Michigan, mostly. I don't know. The tip, I guess, goes to Huron. But anyway, I was fascinated by the Great Lakes. I think that would be a great place to have a boat and explore. Okay. That is where it was at. Okay. I knew a guy, or I know, I'll get this story straight. My other buddy, Phil, who lives here nearby, that I ride motorcycles with, he had a friend from, when he worked a bunch in Ohio for a while on airplanes in Cleveland. And he had a buddy, I'm trying to think which one it was, that doesn't matter, whose father was a merchant marine on the Great Lakes, in the merchant marine or a merchant marine, whatever you call it. But he sailed the Great Lakes with, cargo ships and whatnot. And in fact, unfortunately he drowned in a boating accident on Lake Erie, which I thought was what a terrible end. I mean, man spends his whole life and career on sailing the Great Lakes and living through all the whatever dangers that might entail just because you're out there, and then died on a fishing trip in a boat on Lake Erie. But I believe he said that Erie was really, and I've heard this too, but not from somebody who was there, that Erie is really bad about storms because it, compared to most of the lakes, it's shallow. Now it's not shallow by our standards, but it's shallow for those lakes. And I guess the wind and the prevailing wind and storms can come in from the west, and it creates really high water and waves and wind, the whole thing together. And it has a lot to do with the depth of Lake Erie compared to the other lakes. I don't know if anybody can speak to that. I'll be love to listen and learn. Right, Shelley. Huron on one side, Lake Michigan on the other. I guess technically I put my foot on both sides because we crossed the bridge to the UP. Well, we went through the UP too, but we crossed over and got down on the shore. Dean says, I hate to have to go. I have to get going for now. Thanks for the fun. Well, thank you, Dean Dolph, for being here, sir. Be ever vigilant and have your staff ready because we may need some witchery and sorcery before the day is out, brother. Stand by. Oh, I guess it does down around Detroit, doesn't it? Shelley? Or am I not down far enough yet? And is Cedar, this is really segueing off, but is Cedar Point the recreation area? Is it in Sandusky? Which is where the big Mackinac Bridge is, correct? And the Fort Michilimackinac restored historic area. I don't know exactly what it's called, which I thought was amazingly cool. Oh, Dean and his amazing turkey leg. Well, that's pretty fantastic, Dean. I hope it's not just that plastic blow up one though, because you really need something hard. If you're gonna whack people, you need a whacker. See, this is a cane I use most of the time. And somebody looked at it one day and said, now that's a thumper. And they're right. I can really whack somebody over the head with this. But unlike Gandalf, I can't make it glow. At least I hadn't figured out how yet. Oh, Sandusky's that. Okay, Sandusky's that. I couldn't remember if Sandusky was or not, but is that where Cedar Point is? I know Brenda's been there actually. To Cedar Point, I mean. You take care, Dean. We'll be thinking about your family and you and hoping for your dad's best outcome. And that's not, I don't got that all twisted up. You know what I meant. Recovery. So good luck. Holler at us if you need anything. Don, I don't know if you're still in here, and we swerved off course a little bit and got in the Great Lakes, but if you ever want to start treasure hunting out there, just give us a call. What's the strait called, Shelley, that goes, I guess it'd be between the tip of the UP and Canada. It's not Ignatius Straits, is it? I don't think it is. Well, that's what I thought that was where Cedar Point was. I don't know why I thought of that, Shelley. I just did. I know there's some people that have been there from here, including my wife years ago. In fact, I think that was before we were married, and she was up there on a family trip with cousins and whatnot. Well, there's a little lake in between there's three little lakes between Lake Superior. There's Whitefish Bay. I'm looking at a map. Sault Ste. Marie was what I was thinking of, Shelley. But there's a Muniscong Lake and Lake Nicolette and Lake, well, that one still says Lake Huron. Now, see, they're all attached. I would have called both of those little lakes just inlets or, arms of Huron, probably. That's me. What do I know? I don't know if I've heard of that or not, Shelley. Who on here knows where the again, chasing a squirrel, but that made me think of who knows where that the park, and there's been a couple of TV specials about it now, that was so dangerous that they finally shut it down. That they called it Lawsuit Amusement Park or Lawsuit Central. I can't remember now. Was that up that way too? Does anybody remember what I'm talking about? Oh, Carol, you can't take just a few minutes off. I'll get if you get online or get on the screen. I'll get Teddy up. Oh, go get him. I don't know, Leanne. It might be Pine Hill. All I know is that the things I've seen on it were not called good names. They were all bad. And I think HBO did an expose on it first. Well, maybe not first, but I think that's where I saw it. Lynn told me about it, and when we were doing her Thursday night chat things. I don't know, Shelley. Sounds to me like you guys know where more of them are than I do. Pine Hill was in Jersey. I'll see. Action Park. It was called Action Park, and it was in. Well, I'm trying to find it. Bear with me, folks. I mean, they had lots of things there. They were documented, not just hearsay, where there was little or no supervision, little or few or no lifeguards. They closed it back in. Yeah, it may be Pine Hill, because now they say it was remade into the Pine Hill Gold Course. So I guess it was in New Jersey. Um, Leanne, give her the prize. Yep, Vernon, New Jersey. John knows. John, did you ever go there? I don't know if you can respond right now, but since you've lived up there for a good many years, or Leanne, did you ever remember going there? That was supposed to be a wild place, and apparently the guy that owned it, pardon the expression, but I thought he had more money than God. So apparently he didn't seem to care for a little while, but they did finally shut it down because there was just too many accidents or too much death, or I'm not sure what the stats are, but everything I've seen about it was pretty bad. Well, speaking of that area too, while we're thinking or seeing if anybody responds, um, how many of you know Nicole Bobo, who her and her husband run the sub shop in Atlantic City, I believe, or either they were down in Maryland. Anyway, I think she's on hard times. She had an accident in the snow and ice when she went out to take trash out or something at their store, and broke her ankle really bad. I was talking to her yesterday for a few minutes, and she's got to have plates and screws put in it. And I saw the pictures of it. It looked pretty rough. And but so thinking about Nicole, hoping she gets well and surgery goes well. I know Bill, the Disney radio guy, Bill Grewing. I know he goes in there all the time and gets sandwiches. So wherever he lives, that's where it's at. You have a ski resort in Jersey, John? That's cool. I didn't know that. I wonder if it's anything like the one I went to in Indiana, aka pretty flat. Your dad went numerous times. Took Boy Scouts on some weekends, so that's interesting. Did he find it as wild and carefree as everybody said? Or did he ever mention it? And that was directed towards Leanne. Sorry to wipe my nose, guys. Just every once in a while we get a drip. No, not this one, babe. It was here. It was in the good old United States. I'm not sure the Japanese would ever have let something like that happen. I don't know. There might have been one. I'm not saying there's not, but the one I'm thinking about was in Jersey. I knew it was here somewhere. I just couldn't remember what state it was in. It was crazy. I hear my wife walking around above me. I wonder if that's what it'll be like if she passes away before I do. I don't think she can hear me right now, so I can talk about that. I'll probably hear her. If that's the truth, I'll probably hear her for eternity, or at least my eternity. Apparently, they had a lot, and it could be that it started out one way and ended up the other. But the news reports and things that I've gone back and read about it. Okay. Oh no, you're quite all right, Don. You might have missed all the story about Action Park and the fact that we actually have witnesses here, or at least semi-witnesses that live nearby or whatever. They had another name for it, besides Action Park, and I thought it had something to do with lawsuits or legal. It was a legal term, seems like. Actually, it's been named several things, guys. It was Mountain Creek Water Park at one time, or maybe it is now. Opened in 1978 as Mountain Creek Water Park, and then it was closed in 1996 as Action Park. Well, still owned by Mountain Creek, it says. And they may be open again under different ownership or something. Yeah, apparently there is a Mountain Creek now there also. It was at some point, it looks like it was named Vernon Valley Summer Park. Anyway, I didn't mean to dig too deeply into that. I just found it fascinating that such a place actually existed and made it as long as they did. Snapping beans. Oh my goodness. Can I come for dinner? What kind of cake are we having? Bye, Leanne. Thank you. Thank you for coming in. Really appreciate it. Been too long, girl. Need to see you and talk to you more often. Love you too. Take care. Hope everything's going all right at home today. Leanne's kind of empty nesting. You know, if you saw the Instagram photo, her boys moved out into their own place the other day. So, although I think she's already kind of been empty nesting before, but. I took us down the hunting for lost gold trail. So let's talk about something else. What about Oak Island? Now, like many people, I'm sure, or at least young people. I don't know when I first saw this story, but I believe I was in high school, so I probably read it in the library. It might have been in a Nat Geo or a Reader's Digest. Even it could have even been in a condensed version story about it in Reader's Digest about how this island existed in Nova Scotia, and there were legends of treasure buried on it, and nobody ever found it, nobody ever got to it, and people had died trying to get to it, and all that's true. Oh, cheesecake. I like cheesecake. Hello. I have company. Can I help you? Okay. That means I can talk about you because you're not on the show. Yes, I did, John. As a matter of fact, we did pan for gold, and one of our guys found just a tiny little nugget. And none of the rest of us did. I'd like to go back and try again just for the heck of it. Went down in the mine, though. They had a mine there on Baldy. Did you go into that? It was kind of scary, kind of wild. I mean, we were 15-year-olds, so we were all for it. Most of us. I think we had one or two kids that said they didn't want to go back in there, which they weren't forcing people to. Yeah, John, that's where we went. And they took us back in this mine, and it was pretty authentic. And it didn't look like what you see in the movies and stuff. It was a lot cruder than that, which I suspect most of them were. And then they got us back in there and turned the lights off. So they showed us how to come out in the dark, and that was how the miners had to do it if they got down there and lost all their lights. And they were operating probably on carbide lamps and oil lamps and things like that. They probably didn't have electric like we did, and flashlights. But what you did is I'm not sure how the guy in front led. Maybe he was allowed to have the light, but you put one hand on the guy in front of his shoulder. And I don't know if there was a rope to follow. I know there were some boards to walk on because it was pretty wet and muddy. And, but it was follow the leader in and out. So it was kind of interesting. Bear bags, John. I've hung many a bear bag, not just out there, but back here too. I'll never forget the guy that taught us about bear bags. Our guide, our ranger that goes out with you at Philmont. He takes the scouts out, Squirrel, and kind of teaches you a few things and the do's and don'ts of being on the property out there. But he teaches you about bear bait and bear bags and why it's so important to hang that stuff up. And you literally have to put everything that you have that has a scent, including soap, if you have deodorant, if you have any candy or gum or anything like that, has to go in the bear bag. Any drinks, any Kool-Aid or anything like that has to go in the bear bag, and all your food. And you suspend it between two trees. You can't just pull it up in a tree because black bears can climb a tree. And what you have to do, ideally, is pick two trees that are far enough apart with a limb or whatever, so you can throw the rope over it and you pull your bear bait up in between the two trees. And that worked fine. And they told, this was his story. They said that works fine until you develop a Kamikaze Bear. And that was a bear who, they've had bears that were literally would climb up in the tree and then jump out of the tree and try to grab the food bag on the way down and rip it open or take it with them. And so they had to separate the trees further. You had to get them far enough apart that the bear couldn't jump off and grab the bear bait. So it was pretty hilarious, which also led to his story about, and nobody Tetrox the bears. Tetrox was a name for the soap that they used out there back then that was supposed to be safe for wilderness use. It probably didn't have as many nitrates or whatever it is that makes soap really bubble up and foam up and all that stuff, which causes algae blooms and all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's a kind of a good bad thing. And he said, and bears would eat it because it smelled good. And he said, but it gave them extremely bad bowel problems. Let's say they did the 2-apple 2-step or the green apple 2-step all over the mountain there, and that wasn't pleasant. Like, you didn't want to do that. It's really bad for the bear too. Hey, Dave, good to see you, brother. And Adventures by Dave has joined us, folks. Good to see you. Are you on an adventure this weekend? I'm trying to remember where I just saw you either were or had been somewhere, and I don't remember where it was. I'm ashamed to say. I hope to get caught up on a lot of things now that I'm feeling better and in a better mood and not worried about evil things cruising through my bloodstream. But anyway, Philmont was an amazing. I know the Boy Scouts have gotten a lot of bad publicity in the last few years, and it's tragically. I mean, it was bad. It was bad. Let's just say, I fortunately never knew of any such things, and we had a great time as Boy Scouts, and I learned a lot, and it was really good for me. But going to Philmont Scout Ranch in the summer of 1972 was I still say it was one of the most defining and I can't think of all the right words here. My wordsmithing is escaping me. It changed my life, and I think helped frame many ways I look at things. It was just great. I mean, I loved it. I fell in love with the West. And it was just, wow, it was just beautiful. I don't know, John, what you thought. You're from Jersey, so you were breathing. That's one of the things we learned pretty quick was the air out there wasn't quite as thick as it is back here. So it took a little bit more to get used to. We were hiking. I think base camp out there where you kind of start and stop and stop everything, where you check in, stay the first day or so, and then take off on the trail and then come back to and then leave, head for home. I think it was over 6,000 feet. John, do you remember that, or right at 6,000? Working on a compost for the show. Compost. What do you put in your compost, Dave? I mean, like potato peelings, coffee grounds, vegetable scraps. I mean, I know it's not what you're talking about, but it sounds funny. Compost. I think I've shown my picture before, but I have a picture. Speaking of deep, Ruby Falls. I've been by there, okay, but I've never actually been in. My wife says she wants to go sometime because when she was young and wanted to go, her dad would never take her. So she's always kind of wanted to go just to say she'd been. But I never have. I know that's a pretty high fall. No, that's okay, Dave. I was just kidding because when I read it, it said compost, and I thought, compost. Just sort of rung a bell. Okay, John, tell Dad we said hi. I hope he's doing okay. You have a great day, too. See you later, buddy. The Philmont was for me, it was a great event. And like I said, life-changing kind of thing at that time. We struggled and we worked as a team, and sometimes we probably didn't get along as well as we should, but we learned to kind of adjust and get used to, people and working with people that we didn't know before or barely knew before. And it was a blast. That's all I can say. To me, I was in heaven. It was just perfect. I was out in the wilderness, and I just felt like really right at home. Okay, back to car. So does that mean you're coming from the store? We stopped when we were kids. It was kind of scary going down. You mean down off the mountain or down into Ruby Falls? Okay, explain. That that's a steep road off that mountain, if that's what you mean. Ruby Falls, in case you don't know, is in the Chattanooga, Tennessee area. Lookout Mountain, on one end of Lookout Mountain. That is right, I think. Oops. Well, I was going to pull it up on a map. But what did I do? I closed my map. And another interesting part about that is Lookout Mountain has a great road that comes up from the southern end of Lookout Mountain to the top of Lookout Mountain called the Lookout Mountain Parkway. And it is in mostly Alabama, some in Georgia. I had never heard of it till my buddy Phil took me on it, and didn't realize that it was a real place. It was really on maps as a parkway. I don't know that it gets the kind of notoriety that something like the Blue Ridge Parkway does, but all right, why am I not seeing Ruby Falls? Oh, there it is. It's further down. But that trip up is the road up behind the backside of Lookout Mountain. It runs all the way from down around Florence, Alabama to Chattanooga. It's just an amazing ride, motorcycle road. And then you drop off the end of Lookout Mountain into Chattanooga. I could have stayed there. I think I ate there once, Don. I could have stayed there a time or two when we used to go working for TVA. We went to Chattanooga fairly regularly. Some people went a lot. I went occasionally, and I could have stayed there. There was one of the places we could stay at times, or some people did, and I never did. I wanted to though. There's supposed to be as far as I know, a pretty good train museum in Chattanooga, which is something else I'm really interested in. And I haven't been to see it either. I'm one of the world's worst procrastinators. fact, I have a degree in procrastination. If you could see my room, you'd understand that I've been procrastinating, cleaning it up for the last month. I'm getting there, but not nearly as fast as I should. I think if I could go back and I probably would have been if I'd been in the right time period and not been something like a mountain man or just walk in the wilderness, I think I would have probably made a good train engineer because I would have loved the mechanics of the train. I'm a gearhead from way back since I can remember, and that would have been a place for somebody like me to feed my passion with gears and wheels and mechanical things, because that was probably the most sophisticated. Steam engines were probably one of the most sophisticated mechanical things of the mid to late 1800s, third century. That wouldn't have been correct. But I really love steam trains. I love the steam trains at Disney. I can't wait till they get that back open. Another one of the reasons we've not even come down for me is because the train's not working. I can't imagine coming down there, especially if it's going to be the first one and only time I get to come down for a while. I can't imagine coming down there and not being able to ride the train around the park. That's usually one of the first things I do, and generally speaking, one of the very last things I do, because that's just part of my memory. I usually take a grand circle tour of the Magic Kingdom before I leave, and ride the monorail around if I can do that too, because it's a train. It's just a different kind of train. Well, Dawn, you're in here. I bet you're keeping up with this. What? I'm going to say this. Hopefully it doesn't start any kind of a feud. I don't think it will, and I don't want to go there if that's the case. But what do you make of some of the rumors I've been hearing about, Disney and Chapek and the Magic King? Heard something. Magic Kingdom, and I can't tell. I know I've read a couple things, and then I saw a Disney News, or what's his name? The young guy that does a lot of Disney, that seems to be in on the end a lot of press releases and things. I can't think of his name. How long? Well, I don't want to. I'm not trying to ask your age, Kay, but you were pretty small if you were able to sit in the cubby holes. Okay, I don't know. I think you're right. I think you may be right, because right now they're loving it. Apparently, they are making money hand over fist, which I can only imagine. Braden, yes, thank you, Carol. And Tina. Hey, Tina, I didn't know you were in here. Good morning, ma'am. Yeah, give me just a minute, guys. Okay, I'm back. We never really went to places like that growing up, but those See Ruby Falls and Lookout Mountain signs were painted on half the barns in Tennessee, I think, sometimes. Well, you were ninja watching. Well, that's good. Glad you're here. I'm glad you poked your head in, though, so I know you were here. Hey, I got 16 likes this morning. I'm cooking with gas. No, fans are not happy, which I think ultimately will make other people sad. But here's the thing, apparently, and I think this is COVID related. I think the lockdown had people locked up for so long that once the parks and everything else opened, people have just gone nuts to go out and be somewhere. And according to some things I'm hearing, some people at least managed to save money because they weren't doing anything else. and couldn't go anywhere else. And now they're all in Florida, or now they're going. And apparently they're willing to pay the prices that they're charging for everything. And so right now, like I said, they're making money hand over fist, which is horse malarkey as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it's just taking advantage of the situation. And if they're making so much money, where's the justification other than to say, because we're making a ton of money and we like it? And that's what it amounts to. While all at the same time, not rehiring everybody they laid off, and not, I'm getting started, aren't I? Sorry. But I'll say it anyway, not finishing up the rides and things, not having them ready on time. And I don't think they can totally blame, COVID for that. They could have gotten some things started back a lot sooner than they did. And they could have been spending money on them as opposed to, just keeping people laid off and not fixing things. It's just my opinion. I think they've stretched out some of these grand openings, like Tron and Galaxy thing. Oh, Carol. Okay, we'll see in a few minutes. Let me know when you're on the screen and you can see it. I'll wake up Teddy. Tina says, I'm afraid this will be a 2-year shakedown. What? Okay. Sorry, folks. I forget the mic is there. I'm afraid it's be a 2-year shakedown. By the time Disney realizes people aren't going to keep going, they will end up losing. Well, I think so too. I can't really imagine people getting so used to this that they just let it go. But I do think right now people are traveling because they can and they haven't been able to. That's what I think, Don. I think when this stampede, and that's a good word, that's a good way to put it. I think when the stampede starts to slow down and they turn the herd, I'm afraid. Well, I don't know if I'm afraid or not. I am, but I am afraid that they're going to. We got calendars in the mail. Which is a funny story I'll tell you in a minute. But I am afraid that they'll see, and just like everything else, apparently the fans, the lovers of Disney will be the ones to pay. Again, only in a different way then. Until, and that was one of the things I think Brandon said or read from the minutes of the stockholders meeting or something, that, basically they're admitting that they're going, and indirectly or directly, that they're going away from, the dreams and ideas of Walt, and basically just into the money making. Well, this is nice. Like that picture a lot. Like that one too. Oh, this is cool. Have you ever seen this? I've seen this from pictures and maps. That giant. Oh, yeah. Sorry, Brenda was showing me something, guys. Bear with me. Happy birthday to Abe Lincoln. Is this Abe's birthday? We've been celebrating President's Day for so long now, I've kind of forgotten when it is. But I guess it is this week, isn't it?
I like it. It's got a nice saying with it. May your days be as deep as the oceans and your trouble as light as the foam.
That's good saying. Let's see here. Where was I in this discussion? Don says stockholders are preparing to vote against his re-election to the board of directors. Probably won't amount to much. He could still be CEO, but it would take a pretty loud statement. Make a pretty loud statement. Yeah, you think? Oh, okay, I got you. Well, that's somewhat encouraging. I mean, at least they're going to say something. I don't know if we still do, but I used to have a share or two of stock in Disney, but I don't. I need to check on that. I guess I could maybe still have it, but the I just don't know. It's so frustrating. I mean, Disney's changed so much. But again, I think once this stampede's over, I think it'll change. Oh, I know what I was going to say a minute ago. I think these grand openings of different rides and things have become such a big deal that I think they're taking advantage of that by spreading the openings out and therefore spreading out the. Well, hi to Turtles. Teddy Turtles is typing. You should get up and send him a note. Maybe you guys can understand each other. It's a /7. Does that mean anything? Yeah, apparently not. He says different cats. We have different dialects, so maybe that's why he don't understand the slang. I think they're taking. I really think they're taking advantage of that. I mean, look how they've spread this out. These things were supposed to be ready for the 50th anniversary. COVID happened, whatever else they want to say about it, and now none of them practically are open. And in the middle of that, they do decide to tear Epcot apart and start building it over, and they sort of do and sort of didn't or aren't. What did they open? Well, they opened Galaxy's Edge. Oh, Mickey's Runaway Railway was part of that too, I believe. And then, of course, Tron and Galaxy Rewind thing and Epcot. Cat language, yes. As opposed to Fortran or DOS language. How about that? We have cat language. And that's the only two I could think of. DOS language probably isn't really a language, but Fortran is computer language. But now they've spread them out over time, and I really think I think there's some method to that or some reason why they're doing that. That doesn't. I don't think that has to be that way. I think now they could have fixed some of that. That's just my opinion. What do I know? I'm not down there. I haven't tried. I've honestly not tried to keep up with a lot of it because I don't want to. I'm the kind of guy that would probably stress over it and probably don't need to be. I mean, it's not like I can do anything about it. I can say her tip. I don't know. Whatever. I can vote with my money by not going, but all the stuff is there. Mostly it's just myself. Is about what it amounts to. But I know I speak for many people when they say they miss the old Disney World and how things were. I think they've also something else I'm wondering about is, and I haven't been, so I don't know, but I can honestly say, and Brendan and I've talked about this before, and this is just our experience. I know this is not. Yeah, I know, Tina. Me too. Sometimes the wrong windmills, but a good friend of mine used to kick me under the table and tell me to, I couldn't beat that windmill kind of thing. He would try to tell me when it was a good time to shut my mouth, but wow, that ran that thought right out of my head. Oh, Brendan and I have talked. I said, I can honestly say I don't believe I've ever had a bad experience with any cast member ever. And what I mean by that is I don't believe I've ever had one that didn't help me, wasn't willing to help me, didn't try to do their best to help me. And that was sometimes under some pretty, serious. They were busy, at Christmas time or something when it was full, and back when, it was only full a few times a year like that. But But I think that's changing. I mean, I hear more people talking about Kurt cast members and cast members that don't really seem to want to talk to them. And I know some of you might know Joey or JoJo. I think his name's Crittenton or Crichton, who's that's okay, Tina. That's what we do here. We chase squirrels and tilt at windmills. I should put that in my title name, in fact. Um, he was in the college program when he was there, and he was a custodian. Now, most of us probably look at that and think, "Oh God, I wouldn't want to be a custodian at Disney World. That's got to be a terrible job." But he loved it, and you could tell he did by his interact. I mean, and occasionally somebody would film his interactions with guests, and I mean, he had a great time there, and he really got when he had opportunities to interact or someone would ask him something or he could help somebody, he was always doing it. And that's what I remember most people being like down there, or a lot of them. I know there's any place you work and there's that many people, there's discontent. But for the most part, I never saw it. And, I saw a lot more rude customers or guests, excuse me, than I did cast members. Yeah, I think you're right, Tina. I think the frustration. That's what I was getting at. I think the frustration is showing. Um, I still don't know how many people they have or have not called back to work. Not that they call me and let me know these things. I think a friend of mine that worked there as a in the I can't remember what they call them now with characters. I think she might be back to work, but I don't know if it's full time. And I know she was excited about that, but I don't know how often they're calling her in. So, and I don't get that. I mean, all that does is make people. Most of that is just making people stand in line more. I have something flashing in my background. It must be the TV. I've left the TV on, I guess. So and they're gonna. I mean, one way or another, That's gonna show to the guests if the guests are paying attention. I mean, and there's so many guests there who are really self-absorbed. I mean, I think most of the people that are standing here go to Disney World, if they do, and they enjoy their interaction with the guest, even the cast members. I mean, if you're like me, I go to Disney World, I park my car. This is just my case, but we park our car, we get out, and we forget everything. And we're there to have fun and be relaxed. And I don't care if we're staying at the Grand Floridian, which we never have, but the Contemporary or Wilderness Lodge, or we're staying at the All Stars. We just forget everything, let the cast take care of us in whatever way they are, and don't expect anything out of them but a smile, I guess, if you want to put it that way, and get so much more in return from them, I feel like. And hopefully we give them the same. And I know there's a whole ton of people out there that are really there all about just me and or themselves. And I've seen them. We've all seen them. The angry guest that didn't get his cream puff the way he wanted it, or hey, Francisco, good morning. Oh, let's see here. We hadn't had a mic check lately. Francisco. That's fun to say. Francisco. Aren't you glad they didn't name you San Francisco? Yeah, it is Francisco. I've been hearing about the heat down there. Tomorrow's supposed to be the hottest Super Bowl on record. I was trying to think who that would affect more. Probably Cincinnati. The LA guys are probably a little bit used to it, but not this time of year. I mean, it's usually not this hot in California this time of year. So it's kind of wild and unusual. anyway, that's my thoughts about some of that Disney stuff, and that's my opinion in it. So who wouldn't used to say this? That's my opinion, and it ought to be yours. Somebody on the radio used to say that. I don't remember who it was. But anyway, I hope eventually things get kind of ironed out. I feel like they've been down this path before to some degree, and it led to some bad situations and some close calls on Disney. But woohoo, Shelly, it's up to 20, head for 25. Or it is 25, it's up 20. That's great. We were in the high 60s yesterday, which is absolutely crazy. I mean, we might be southern, but we're not that southern, and it didn't used to be 67 degrees in the middle of February up here. We have daffodils blooming. I saw a whole bunch yesterday. Brenda and I, when I went to the doctor, we were out for a little while, and we had to, we looked around and saw daffodils all over the place. So they're up, they're blooming, and probably going to get frostbite if daffodils get frostbite. And I'm mad at my wife. I forgot to mention that. So if you're listening, Brenda, I'm mad at you. You cut my holly tree down. And I want you to think about this for a minute. Think about all the birds that used that holly tree. We had sapsuckers in that holly tree. All the little birds took refuge in that holly tree. It better come back, is all I got to say. We had a big holly tree in the front of the house, and it was kind of close to the house, I guess. And, she talked the handyman into trimming it a little bit, I thought, to get it off the gutter and maybe off some lines coming into the house. Although now that I think about that, she probably made that part up. You too, Shelly. Have a great weekend. Be safe out there. Thanks for coming in. We always enjoy your company. So glad you made it. I gotta. If you're doing any streaming, I got to get in one of your trivia shows again or something someday. So anyway, Brenda had it trimmed. Well, I looked at it yesterday. He trimmed it all right. She loves it. I hate it. It's right in the middle of her flower garden, and she always complained because it shaded her flowers too much and that kind of thing. And I loved it because it hid the house, and I guess that I'm a hider at heart. And to me, it was a privacy curtain, but it also, you could sit there on the couch and look into that tree. And like I said, you might see any number of birds in that tree on any given day, just about any time of the year, from cardinals or mockingbirds in the spring and summer to tufted titmice and chickadees and sapsuckers. Okay, Shelly. Well, if you ever do, let us know. And I promise you, I'll try to make it. And I guess I'm feeling good today, so I haven't got lined up to sign off here, and it's almost noon. I think I'll stay just a little bit longer. I don't know how many people in here stream that are still in here. I mean, Shelly has, and I have, and I don't know about Francisco. Tina, I don't think you do stream. Well, Hitchhiking Bones. Have you got any of you guys heard about Utreon or I don't know if it's kind of like Patreon, but some people, thank you too, Charlie. Thank you. And you take care. Be safe out there on the roads. Anyway, I've seen some people that are moving over there. Some are not moving out of YouTube, but they're apparently moving to that too because it's a little bit more I don't know. They seem to like the folks there better than some of the YouTube folks, but I guess that just kind of goes without saying. There's always something. I've heard a lot of complaints about YouTube doing stuff that, makes people mad, taking off videos or locking up videos or, and that sort of stuff. So I don't know what Utreon really is. I believe I've got that right. It's almost like Patreon, but I think it's Utreon. Yeah, Utreon. Watch all the videos you love. And it looks to me like it's pretty much got everything. It's not got everything YouTube has, but a lot of people have moved some videos over there. It looks like I haven't really signed up for it or anything, but somebody else I follow that does some history related stuff had spread the word that he was going to put, or he and she were going to put some of their videos over there and try it out, but they weren't leaving YouTube with it. They were just going to. So I don't know exactly how that's working, but I just wonder if anybody else in here had heard of it. But I didn't know it, but you can see some stuff on, well, no. Starts say Patreon, but that's not true. When I see it on Patreon, I belong to one group on Patreon, and they will post some of their videos for kind of like peer review, actually, which is pretty neat that they put them on before they put them on public view on YouTube. And if you're a Patreon member, you get to watch the video early. And if there's any mistakes in it or things that aren't right, you can tell them and they'll fix them, or they'll research it and fix them, because it's usually history related. And which I think is kind of neat. But now that I think about it, I'm only able to see it because I'm a Patreon for them, or patron. But they're on YouTube, so I guess it's private in YouTube, and you link through from Patreon. So I guess in that respect, it's still YouTube. But this Utreon thing seems to be a standalone, like YouTube. I don't care. I just want to come on and do my talk to people and chase squirrels, and I'm not big enough or into anything enough that I have to worry about what they're doing or not doing so much. But I hope Carol comes back. I got to show her something on Tedward. Tedward's him and somebody apparently are not getting along right now, but we don't know who. I suspect it's his sister. He won't say. They've got the fur wall. You've heard of the blue wall, and the police, they always stand behind each other. Well, we have a fur wall here. The cats won't tell on each other. Do you? No. Because he says, I'm not a rat. But I sure do like my neck scratched. He was really sweet last week when I wasn't feeling good. And there are times he's funny. Cats are funny anyway, but he's funny. Speaking of that, Squirrel, how many people that are on here who are left have seen the Walter commercials on the Olympics or anything else about the cat? It's actually about Chevrolet trucks, but there's a cat named Walter in them. I love those commercials. That's one of the best commercial series I've seen ever to date. And I love the new one because, the cat goes and finds a lost skier in the snow, buried in the snow, and he's digging him out of the snow. And the guy says, that's just amazing. And of course, the human involved says, well, yeah, it's a Chevy off-road truck. They're made like that from straight out of the showroom. You can, and the guy says, no, I mean the cat. And the human guy says, or, owner or whatever, oh, it's like nobody's ever seen a cat before. He's just a cat. They're hilarious. To me, they are. And, Walter's out there herding cattle in one commercial, and he's out there running a dog team with another commercial. I love it when he goes after the letter carrier, and the human guys, which I don't know if he has a name, is yelling at him. No, no, Walter, he's a public servant. I just I just think they're hilarious. I believe those are my favorite commercials of all time now. And I've only seen two. One last year, I think, came out in the Super Bowl time, and this one that I'm just seeing now that came out right around the Olympics or before they started. But they run it a couple of times a day on the Olympic coverages, and me and Teddy always get up and watch it, don't we? He says he could do all that stuff if he wanted to. He just doesn't want to. He thinks Walter works a little too hard for his dinner, because he gets dinner every day and he don't do nothing but lay around and cuddle with me. I think most of you know we lost the fur baby last week. We had to let our dear Simon go. Simon had been sick or not sick, but he'd had a problem for a while. He fell. Simon fell during the night, in the middle of the night, woke Brenda and I both up, but we didn't see what happened, and we didn't know what happened. But, when morning arrived and we really looked into it, Simon had a problem, and his tail was drooping, and at that time he was kind of limping around a little bit. We thought he'd really messed his back up. We took him to the vet, paid a lot of money to have x-rays done and that kind of stuff, and they really didn't see anything broken, but he definitely had some nerves pinched or something, and because his tail never was quite the same. He never held his tail up again. It just drooped. But it gave him some other issues, and let's just say he had feces problems, and he would get really constipated, and seriously stove up, and we'd have to take him to the vet. Well, we did once because we didn't know what was going on, and they helped him get flushed out, and he was fine for quite some time now. His tail still drooped, and he was still but he was doing so much better. And then it started happening again, and the doctor said we think this is going to get worse and worse, because of course this has caused other problems in his gastrointestinal system, and so we had to finally just give up and put him down. I often called him a pain in the butt because he wanted a lot of attention. At the same time, he was a sweetheart. He'd lay down with you and just, if you could get him past the scratch me phase and pet me and just let him, settle down and he'd sleep with you all night or whatever. He was our big chunky boy, and he was a good cat. He was a sweetheart, but we now do not have him, and we are adjusting to that. But since that's happened, since he's not here, we thought he did this to Teddy. Somebody bit Teddy right here on his lip, cheek area. Pretty sure it was a bite, because, yeah, I know, Tina, it's hard, isn't it? And if you never had pets, you don't get it. And I understand that. I have a buddy that he don't want pets. He's never had a pet. He never will have a pet. And I got a buddy like Mark who has everything for a pet except a cat. He don't want cats. His former wife had a bunch of cats, and I think she kind of ruined him on cats, because she took in every stray. He said, I think he said she ended up with about 20 some cats, and I think that could have been part of their demise. But so he's not real cat friendly, but he has dogs and horses and all kinds of other stuff he's had over the years. But if you never really had an animal and gotten attached to them, you don't know how hard it is to let them go, and it is so hard. Even though it's for the best, and they're not in pain, and they're their quality of life is gone to hell, and but it's so hard to do that. And no, it's not. It's not. And that's what people will say. Oh, it's just a damn cat, or it's just a damn dog. Yeah, Simon was kind of Teddy was taking over. We told Simon a long time ago that he better be nicer to Teddy, because he boxes ears once in a while, and he'd get Teddy down and just hold him down, like say I'm boss. So you need to understand that. But they still got along for the most part good, and but yeah, he was definitely. I think he was definitely the boss of the house, and so I'm sure Teddy is trying to fill that role. So, and then we got our old cat Spooky, who is on the other hand is 21 years old now, we think, and he's really never had anything wrong with him a day in his life. He's just, although he's skinny as a rail, he's still going strong. So it could have been him. He is a little bit more cranky in his old age. So he could have been. I've seen him, they'll push him. He didn't used to eat that much. I mean, he never has. He's always been little, skinny, not very big. And he's really bony now. But other than that, he goes fine. He still runs and jumps and chases the red dot and does everything probably with the best of them. He's still a mouse getter, but he's kind of cranky. And he's gotten to where he goes around and checks out everybody's food bowls, and he didn't used to do that at all. And he comes to the table wanting snacks, and he never wanted people food. So I don't know if that's old age. I'm worried that he might have a feline version of Alzheimer's, to be honest. But so he might have bit Teddy just out of leave me alone, Teddy. You're not my boss kind of thing. But him and Simon never had words that I know words. Never had a problem that I know of. But sometimes the cat you think is in charge isn't. The cat dynamic is very interesting. It is. I mean, they do have their own hierarchy. There's no two ways around that, cat. You're absolutely right. But from a fairly young age, I thought Teddy was going to end up being a big cat, and he is. And while Simon was chunkier and more solid and therefore weighed more, Teddy was longer, taller, bigger, period, other than the weight in which he's catching him. But his legs are longer, his body is longer. I mean, he's just a bigger cat. Simon was kind of squatty, not real long legs. He was just a different cat, and but he definitely was in charge for a long time. So you're right about that. So I guess they're working through that, because we thought that Simon might have bit him right before Simon had to go away, because that's the first time it happened. But somebody bit him yesterday, and I don't know who it was yet. Now he and his sister play rough. I mean, they play rough sometimes. And I've seen both of them get the better of the other one. She's small. She's half his size, but she's tough as a pine knot. And she does not hesitate to let him know that he ain't going to push her around. Anyway, I'm not sure where all that got started. I was talking about Teddy, and it ended up being about Simon. But we missed the little devil. I mean, he was a sweet guy. All in all, he was a very sweet cat and a good cat. We ended up with him kind of because of that. Simon absolutely loved to be scratched and petted and brushed. Oh, he loved to be brushed. And that's one of the reasons we ended up with him. My wife and my daughter somehow went to visit my in-laws, and they ended up going to the pound or going to a shelter and picking out a cat for her mom and dad. They decided they would like to have a cat. Her dad was in his later times when he was at home a lot, not feeling well. So he wanted a cat. I don't know why, but they've got a cat. Now, this is somebody that never really wanted dogs or cats in their house or anything. So they went out and got Simon. And then the girl, I think Brenda helped pick him out because he was a sweetheart. Well, he was a little overly aggressive as that. He was bad to come up and scratch you if he wanted you to scratch him. And her dad was on blood thinners at the time, so they were afraid that wasn't good. Now, I have a suspicion that her dad picked on him because he was bad to grab a cat, and wrestle with it. I've got a feeling he picked on him some, and that might be why he did that. But So he was that way, and that way he was a pest. He just wanted loving, so he'd let you know, and he'd hang around, rub your legs, and do all that stuff that cats do. But he was pretty aggressive about it. But like I said, once you got him up in your lap, or he got up in your lap and laid down, you just kind of rub his chest or his belly, and he was a cat in heaven. He was gone. He'd sleep. He'd sleep like a log. Okay, we got Mikael and Anubis, my brother and sister, and they fight something. Yeah, they think they're in charge, but I think it is the baby. How you say that? Okay, Paquette? Yeah, I think they may be. I mean, well, I think if Brenda told you, she would say that Chloe, the little female, the sister. I do too, Tina. That's what I was just thinking of. I was trying to figure out I'm going to say Mikael or Mikael. I'm not sure. And then the other one. That name looks familiar, but I'm trying to think where I've seen it. And Anubis, I know what Anubis is. Paquette, okay. Where does that come from, Kay? But Chloe's the queen of the house, and as far as she's concerned, she rules the roost. And she does pretty much get her way. She used to she would pick on Simon fierce, and she'd sneak up on Simon and grab him by the head or the ears and then run off like she knows. So we're pretty sure that she had something to do with Simon's original accident. We think that Simon used to get up on this tree, and he'd sit on a certain level, fairly high on the tree, and look out the window at the birds. We have a bad feeling that she might have jumped him in the middle of the night, and he fell off that perch and landed on the coffee table or something and whacked his back. But okay, well, that's where I've heard him then. I knew Anubis was. I wasn't sure about the other two. Although, it's weird. You have with cats, you have an odd dynamic, and I guess dogs too. When you've got a litter mates, brother and sister, or two brothers, or whatever. So I'm glad we kept Chloe and Teddy together because they've always been pretty thick. I mean, when they were little, they were just about inseparable, and wouldn't hardly leave Brenda's side because she bottle fed them and raised them pretty much by herself while I was at work. And so I was glad we had them both in that regard. But interesting. Pet dynamics and personalities and stuff are amazing. You're still listening, but you are sewing. Well, do you agree or disagree with me? Mikael, okay. Speaking of rubbing his chest, I'm started rubbing Teddy's, and he's laying down here making all kinds of very satisfied sounds. I don't suppose you want to come up here and show people your face, do you, where you got scars? I'm hoping the one the other day, I thought it was getting infected. I put some concentration on it, cleaned it, and it healed up. It's fine now, but it looked a bit swollen. And this one that I found last night might not be a bite. It may just been a claw mark, but it had bled a little bit. Well, as long as they're gentle with you and play rough with each other, I guess that's okay. Ours certainly are like do that, and they love to. They still play together a lot, and they have a tunnel. One of those springy kind of tunnels that they can get in and hide. They've had it since they were pretty little, and they will still, both of them. And Teddy just barely fits in it, but they both get in that thing and will lay and wait for the other one to walk by. And Chloe will get at one end of it, and she'll look through it till she sees somebody. Well, it used to be Simon and or Teddy, not hardly ever Spooky. And she will launch through that thing. She will start, she'll wiggle, she'll get set, and she'll launch out of that tube. It's like a missile, a furry cat missile coming out the other end, and just pounce on somebody and then run off. And her brother does that too some. We've seen him, we find him laying in the tunnel. We'll move it around the house sometimes, and it'll be laying in the tunnel in the hallway, just laying there waiting for her to come by. Another thing Chloe does is if she's in it or Brenda's messing with it, she'll get in it, and she loves for Brenda to lift her up in it and swing her around in that tube. She would just do that all day long. I don't know what the deal is. I've never seen a cat do that, but she loves to ride around in that. And I guess a box, but she will not go into a pet carrier. At least not on her own. And we haven't gotten her in one in quite some time. She sees it coming, she's gone. You set it in the foyer floor to let her kind of get accustomed to it being around, she's gone. She knows what it is, and she ain't getting close to it. And she's never had any bad vet experiences or anything. I don't know what the deal is. Well, guys, it's approaching 12:30. I believe I will start winding up. I'm going to probably get off here about 12:30. And I appreciate everybody who's come in today and chased squirrels with me. Chasing Squirrels is probably what I ought to name my show. And I may, if I ever get an evening show or something, I may name it Chasing Squirrels. I wrote a book one time. I didn't write a book. I've written lots of partial books in my life, I think, but I started a story once called Hunting Squirrels on a Bicycle. Because I used to ride my bicycle back and forth when we lived in some apartments over closer to the university, and I'd ride my bike to school for classes and work and stuff. And there was always squirrels everywhere along the trail that led over there. I didn't have to ride the streets and the highway much, very little, and or none. And I always thought if I had a polo mallet, I could have hunted squirrels and probably brought my lemon home every night for dinner, because I could get they just didn't bother with a bicycle. If you were on a bicycle, they didn't care one way or the other, and they'd sit by the road or the trail, a greenway trail, or they'd sit on a tree right beside you. They wouldn't run or hide. And I could have filled the stew pot. We could have had squirrel dumplings 3 nights a week probably. And I never had to fire a shot. I believe I could have done it with a mallet. Maybe a croquet mallet, it'd be shorter, but the polo mallets they use are a lot longer because you're going to reach further down, off a horse. So I think that would have worked perfect. I never tried it, but I thought about it a lot. So I named that Hunting Squirrels from a Bicycle. I found that story just the other day. I need to look at it and refine it and publish it somewhere. I've got piles of stories like that. I hope everybody, I don't know if anybody's got plans today. Brenda said the sun was shining here, and it is sort of shining, but it is also cloudy. But it's not a dark, ugly gray kind of cloudy, at least not yet. I think we are supposed to get some rain. I think it's supposed to get cold again now tonight or tomorrow night, with a chance of snow. And then we'll see what happens after that, because I don't think it will. I don't think if it does, it's going to amount to anything. I mean, like I said yesterday, we were almost 70 degrees, and crazy, crazy weather, crazy climate now these days. Makes you wonder if our ancestors that chased woolly mammoths in the last ice age, it makes me wonder sometimes if they noticed the changes happening. Did they go sit around the fire and say, George, you noticed it's getting warmer these days? It was almost 23 yesterday. And here we are in the middle of winter. Or middle of summer. Or whatever. I don't know. Maybe they did. Maybe some of them saw it coming. Maybe they saw the ice retreating over time and knew that they were going to have to hunt woolly mammoth somewhere else. Or maybe they figured out that woolly mammoths, if they weren't trapped in the snow, were a lot harder to catch and kill and eat. I always think of Fred Flintstone eating giant mammoth steaks and things like that from the Flintstone shows. Brontosaurus steaks and huge. Anyway, guys, I've had a fun morning. It has gone by as usual. It has flown past. And here it is, almost 12:30. I'm not quite to 12:30. I'm going to wait because I'm going to go to 12:30 just because. But I appreciate your company, your chat, your suggestions. Kay, I love, and Tina, I love to talk about pets and what they mean to people. Well, I ought to do that, I guess, someday. Talk about pets, unusual, common. What do you have? What do you don't have? I'd love to get a friend of mine on that's got lots of snakes and little frogs and something else he started collecting. She might have a spider. She might. Yeah, it's been a good squirrel chase, Tina. It turned out pretty good, which seems to be what I do better than when I get a subject. I tend to chase squirrels too much. But last week, we got kind of a slow start last week about birds, or maybe not. Maybe we just rolled right through, and then Shelly joined us. And once she brought her bird pictures in, it just took over, and we went way over what I usually go because that was fun. I mean, she has got some amazing, I'm going to brag about her again. She's not in here. She has some amazing bird photographs. I can't wait to see what she got today. She was taking pictures of cedar waxwings, which I think is one of the most beautiful birds out there. And I hope she got some good shots. And I'm sure she did. She always seems to. Which just makes me want to get a new camera so bad. My last good camera is still a 35 millimeter film camera, and I don't use it. Well, thank you, Tina. I'll take that as a compliment. That Mark said, Mark called me. This is how bad it gets. Since Mark and I have gotten back together, that sounds like we were dating, but we went several years and we didn't talk to each other. Not because we were upset with each other, because we both just kind of went our separate ways. And for some reason, we didn't call each other all the time. We talked to each other on emails occasionally through work, because he was in the same line of business as I was, sort of. So we did that. But then we got separated and we didn't talk for a long time. So now we talk. And his wife came in one day and he was talking to me on the phone. She said, you know what? You talk to him more than she said, you have talked to him for X number of minutes. She said, you've never talked to me that long in our entire life of knowing each other if you added them all together, which is probably true. To prove that point, he called me the other day and we started talking and chasing squirrels and talking and chasing squirrels. And we were on the phone for over 3 hours. I don't know if he told his wife about that one or not. If he did, she's probably going to call and murderate me, because I'm sure she probably had a honey-do list for him. And it just happens, it just happens. Anybody else have that kind of experience? I mean, where you just end up talking, and we talked about books and our favorite authors, and we talked about working with leather, and we talked about animals, and we talked about a little bit about, I'm not going to say that one, but just lots of things. Well, let's just say social with people a little bit, which is not really something we talk about a lot. And but I mean, we talked about so much stuff, and then we both kind of realized, Jesus, we've been on the phone for this long. Hey, John, welcome back. We're just getting ready to leave, buddy. Hope your dad was doing well. And anyway, it just happens, and you know, when you chase squirrels, that can be the case. So we will keep that in mind. And I guess as long as you know that when you come into one of my chats, that could happen at any moment, even if I've got a scheduled topic. Squirrel chasing is never off limits. Oh, good, John. That's good to hear. I guess their weather has warmed back up some, a little bit, anyways, than what it was. Where he was at, it might have been pretty cool. I mean, I'd call him at least at the southern edge of northern Florida. I wouldn't consider him down far enough to be Central Florida. I wouldn't. Well, thank you, Dawn. I'm glad you were here. Thanks for popping in and saying hi. And thanks for listening in ghost mode. I guess you would be in ghost mode. That makes perfect sense. Wow, you're 62 today, John. We were 67 yesterday, but I don't think it's supposed to get there today. I think it's in the 20s, well, not in the 20s, but I think it's supposed to be overnight. It's either tonight or tomorrow night. It's supposed to get back down in. It's 48 here, and yesterday it was 57 at 10 o'clock, I think. Crazy. But we had a really beautiful, bright, sunny day yesterday. I went to the doctor. I got a good health report, so I was thrilled. And yesterday just looked like a gorgeous day. Unfortunately, my bride was not feeling good, so we ended up coming back home and just, letting her take a nap and get feeling better. But it was a beautiful day, and I felt really good. Stress was gone for a whole while, and it was good. Yeah, I knew he was down near Augustine. I don't know where they consider Central Florida starting. I don't know if it's Daytona Beach or if it's further down than that. But I'm pretty sure they still, Orlando, Central Florida, I'm pretty sure what they call Central Florida. I don't know which also begs the question. So where does South Florida start? If you count the distance to the end of the Keys, it may not start till you get down towards Miami. Have to ask that. Oh, John, it went well. Well, the bone marrow biopsy parts kind of sucked, but the results came back. And yesterday I went to see the doctor, and she said everything was good to go. So no cancer, no strange blood disorders, no nastiness that they were looking for. So that's all good. And she does want to check me again, not bone marrow, but just, keep up with my blood work. There's evidently a protein that's always there, but can increase in number if certain things are going on in your body. I'm sure some of you people know more than I do about it, and that's what she's been watching. And mine had increased just a little, but she really doesn't have much of a baseline on me because I've only been seeing her for a year now. So she's run 3 or 4 times they've done blood work. They've got to put me on iron pills and increased my iron. And I was a bit anemic early on, which I guess didn't surprise me. I was feeling anemic, and I hadn't been taking my one-a-days. But anyway, and when I was younger, I was on iron pills at one time. I don't know if that's just a genetic thing with me or what it is, but I've had that problem. Yeah, it worked out good, Dawn. I thank everyone who was thinking about me and praying for me and whatever else. And like I said, I tried not to too big a deal about it. And I tried to act like it wasn't really bothering me, but it was. I mean, I felt a huge relief yesterday when she said everything was okay. That's probably when I realized just how much it was weighing on me. So, but it's all good. Nothing scary going on, and I'll go back in 6 months and we'll see. And then I think over time she can look at this thing and see if it's changing much, getting larger percentage. I think she described it as a percentage of my blood of a sample, and it's still pretty low. And maybe it never gets real high, but that's the thing. It's usually very low, this protein, and mine has increased a little bit, so that's what concerned her. And but right now everything's fine, and we're going to watch it a little. We'll keep an eye on it next few years, maybe the rest of my life, just make sure. But I think if it doesn't change after a few times, that she gets a baseline on me, then she'll, that I think she'll know we'll be okay. Basically, maybe we can go out to checking it once a year or something, and which is, I think, something they check. What got it all started was, and I'll try to do this quick because I said I was going to leave. When they did my spinal work last year and my surgery, apparently when neurologists do blood tests for preparing for surgery and that sort of thing, they look at everything. And they have all the tests run on your blood so they can look at just all kinds of stuff to make sure they're not dealing with another problem in your system other than, the nerves, or it's not something causing that's not obvious. That's why I went through all the MRIs too. They were looking for potentially damaged nerve bundle, and it could have been a tumor. That could have caused the same kind of thing, suddenly going, paralyzing my legs. And but that worked out. But that's what got this started. So this popped up in that test, in those series of tests, that this protein was an anomaly and a little higher than normal. So he sent me to an oncologist, which actually scared the crap out of me when they first said, we want you to see an oncologist because, I'm a science bear, and I knew what that meant. And turns out she's also a hematologist. So, she looks at both sides of it. Anyway, coffee cheers to everybody. Thank you for being here. I hope everybody has a great weekend and a week to come. And hopefully your day will be sunny and not just snowbound or raining. And maybe not too cold for everybody. And if the good Lord's will and the creek don't rise, I'll be back here again next week. And we'll chase another squirrel or 2 or 3 or 4. See you guys. Thanks for coming. Lots of love your way. I hate to hang up. I feel like I'm just abandoning people. You too, Dawn. Have a great day out in Texas.